To continue to talk about harmful drug effects, I think one of the most well known facts about drugs would be addiction. Addiction basically is a dependence on a drug. It could be any type of drug. Some drugs are more addictive, some drugs may not be so addictive. And we have two different types of addiction when we have drugs. The first one is going to be the physical dependence, when the body needs the chemical of the drug. If you stop consuming the chemical from that drug, you may have withdrawal symptoms, which may include nausea, headache, chills, cramps, anxiety, or even insomnia. Because most of the times you develop physical dependence with drugs that are highly addictive, it's really hard to quit cold turkey. And because of that, a lot of the times people can commit crimes to obtain the drug. Psychological dependence is a little different because you don't have the chemical craving or chemical need for the drug, but instead the user believes that they need a drug to either feel good or feel normal. Now, the person may function perfectly fine without consuming those drugs, but because they believe it's necessary, they're going to continue consuming it. Although they're not addicted physically with chemicals, because drugs are generally made to affect your body in one way or the other, they're going to still be affected by those drugs' negative side effects. Continuing with harmful drug effects, we're going to look into other effects that drugs may have in your life, and we're mainly talking about addictive drugs or highly addictive drugs that can destroy your life in many different ways. First, your relationships suffer or end. Oftentimes, your family members, friends, or neighbors are going to be the first one to notice any differences that you may experience, either appearance-wise or engagement with other people, and they may advise you to stop whatever you're using. And if the person is addicted, they are going to refuse it oftentimes or deny it. And in severe cases, you may have your family members or friends or neighbors leaving you because they can't handle the situation. Another example is if you are addicted to alcohol, a lot of the times those alcoholics can actually physically harm family members or friends that are involved. So that could be another case that will break relationships. Accidents and injuries can also happen, especially if you're using drugs such as alcohol and drive under influence. You can injure yourself or other people around you. You may have higher chances of involving in risky behaviors, and you may injure body parts, breaking it, or in the worst case scenario, you may die from those injuries too. Financial struggles. Believe it or not, drugs are very expensive. So the more you are addicted to it, the more your body will want it, and the larger quantities or dosage your body will require from you to get rid of those withdrawal symptoms. And before you know it, you're going to be spending all your fortunes purchasing those drugs. So it is somewhat true when you watch movies with drug lords, they are going to be very careful with those drugs because they are going to be very expensive. If you're in school and are using different drugs, you may struggle academically. A lot of times I hear students in college that are using different drugs and they skip classes, they skip their tests and end up performing very poorly in their classes. And depending on the school, some schools may actually suspend you or even kick you out if you use certain types of drugs. If your case is very severe, then they may call the police and you may go to the jail. If you are an adult and are working, you can use your jobs because it's going to be very unstable. You're going to miss out a lot of your work days if you're deeply hooked. And once you lose your career, you're going to have no income, and it may cause further illegal activities because, again, You still need that chemical in your body and you can't get it because you don't have money. And the other option that you can think of would be doing illegal activities to get your hands on those drugs. And I know you may think that doing just once or twice just to experience is not going to hurt you because it seems like everyone or a lot of people are doing it. And I don't know about you, but you may know some people who are already into using different types of drugs around you. Like I said before, it is easier for younger people to be addicted in certain drugs because the earlier you start, the higher the risk is for you to have those addiction because the chemicals are going to alter things in your body. If you are ever tempted to try different drugs, just remember that it's not going to worth your time, your effort, your money, or your loved ones to try those drugs. Now, drugs are usually split into different categories, and in this section, we're going to look into 5 different categories of drugs with different effects. The first one is going to be stimulants. Stimulants are any drugs that would increase your metabolism, mental alertness, and energy. The 2 main stimulants that we know are going to be nicotine, which can be found in cigarettes, and caffeine, which you already know from coffee or energy drinks or even tea. Nicotine will damage your heart and lungs when you use it for a prolonged time, and it can cause cancer. You can purchase cigarettes with age restriction, so it's something that can be purchased. Would I recommend purchasing it? Probably not. Caffeine is also another one that you can get it easily from a store. You don't need prescription for this. You don't really have age restriction either, but we don't recommend children to consume too much of it. When you drink or consume too much of caffeine, you can have symptoms such as nausea, tremors, sweaty palms, rapid heartbeats, and even chest pain. And I don't know if you have noticed, whenever you drink coffee or consume a large amount of caffeine, you're going to want to use the restroom. It's because of some chemicals inside of caffeine that triggers your body to use the restroom more and to get rid of water inside your body. So if you drink too much and you don't replenish your water sources in your body, then you can have dehydration from caffeine consumption. So during a hot summer day when you're drinking coffee and you say, I'm drinking enough liquid to keep me hydrated, actually that is going to be a false statement. You're going to lose more water than to gain in your body. Caffeine has a positive effect if you would consume it carefully, such as providing energy and concentration. However, it is only for a limited time, followed by extreme tiredness. You usually call this caffeine crash, which typically happens after 3 or 4 hours of caffeine consumption. I've seen so many people in college who would pull an all-nighter drinking Red Bull and different energy drinks or maybe coffee. They would stay up for how many hours, I don't know, all night, and they would go and take the test, and then they would come back home into their dorm rooms and just crash and sleep for the whole evening, which is not really healthy for those individuals. Other types of stimulants are cocaine and methamphetamine or amphetamine, and some prescription drugs may be also stimulants. For example, cocaine, because they're stimulants, they're going to make things move faster or work faster. So you'll have increased blood pressure and heart rate. And when your heart is beating so fast, sometimes you're going to feel anxious or even panic. It can lead to stroke or heart attack because of this increased activities from your organs, and cocaine is illegal for people to use. Amphetamine and methamphetamine and some other prescription drugs can have similar effects as cocaine, but you'll also experience dental problems. So you may have bleeding gums, you may have teeth that are not working well or having damages. and so forth. Amphetamine is going to be illegal, and for some medical conditions, it can be legal, but it's going to be very strict in terms of the usage. Methamphetamine in general are going to be illegal. Prescription drugs that are stimulants are going to be legal only for the person prescribed for it. So if someone has the prescription drug that is going to be stimulant and they share it with someone else, it's going to be illegal for the person who is not prescribed to consume those drugs. The next one is going to be depressants. As you can tell by the name, it's going to decrease the things that work in your body. So it's going to be the opposite of stimulants. It's going to decrease mental alertness, coordination, visual acuity, or even memory. The most famous depressant out of all is going to be alcohol. When you drink alcohol, it's going to numb your senses, impair judgment, and also cause nausea. When you use alcohol for extended time, it can cause liver and heart disease because, especially with liver, liver is a part that would filter harmful substances in your bloodstream. And because alcohol is toxic, when you overwork your liver, you're going to have diseases such as cirrhosis, which we'll cover in our next lesson. Alcohol is legal with age restriction of 21 or older of age. And it is because it is going to affect your judgment. And a lot of times when you're not making good judgments already as a young individual, it's going to be resulting some unforeseen and not pleasant results. Heroin, opium, and some other prescription drugs with depressants can cause drowsiness, confusion, loss of coordination, nausea, and slowed breathing. Heroin is definitely illegal, and opium in most cases are going to be illegal, but some forms are going to be legal for medical usage. Opium overdose is actually the leading cause of drug-related death, so it can be dangerous if not used properly and with prescriptions. As you can see, depressants are going to slow things down, and that's why when people are drunk and left outside in the cold weather, they have a high chance of either severe hypothermia or death, because when things are slowing down and the weather is colder outside, your heart may also slow down and eventually reach death. Some drugs are going to have mixed effects of both stimulants and depressants. So for example, with mixed effects, they're going to have increased metabolism, but then decrease mental processes and coordination. For example, we have marijuana or hashish, which is type of marijuana that can cause slower reaction and loss of coordination, impaired learning and memory, which will relate to depressants, but then also will have increased heart rate, anxiety, and panic attacks because it will also have characteristics of stimulants. Marijuana is going to be illegal in most places and legal in some states, both recreational and medical. Inhalants are also going to have mixed effects, so different types of inhalants that you would, inhale through your nose instead of consuming. They can impair your senses, so that's going to be more of a depressant part, and then it's going to increase your heart rate and cause anxiety, so that's going to be for the stimulant parts for the effects. Most inhalants and all inhalants that you may think of are going to be illegal. The next one is going to be hallucinogens, which can cause altered states of perception and hallucination. So when you consume these drugs, you're going to see things, maybe hear things. You're not going to be in your right mindset. We have two examples. The first one is going to be ecstasy. It can cause hallucinations, feelings of panic or anxiety, and blurred vision, increased heart rate. So it has some characteristics of stimulants, and of course you're going to have hallucination. Because it can be very dangerous and addictive, this is going to be illegal. LSD is another one where you have hallucinogens included, and you also will have similar symptoms as stimulants, such as increased body temperature and blood pressure. But then you'll also have other symptoms such as sleeplessness, body tremors, decreased appetite, and hallucination as well. This is also illegal. So, as you can see, hallucinogens are going to be illegal all the time. There's no reason for you to use this for any medical purposes. This is purely for people to get high off. Our last one is going to be steroids. Steroids cause hormonal and physiological changes, which means other than altering your mindset, this is more for your physical state. The most famous one is going to be anabolic steroids, which can lead to slow growth, anger, and aggression when you use it in high dosage. And if a male is using the steroids for a long time, they may develop female traits in male. And for females, if they're using it for a long time, they may develop masculine traits in females. So maybe facial hair or breasts, depending on your gender. It is legal only when it's prescribed to you because it can be helpful in different medical condition to either ease their muscle pain and tension or different types of complication. But it's not recommended for you to use it whenever you want, obviously. We also have steroids that may enhance your performance. And usually you get tested if you're an athlete to go on Olympics and different national games. They test your blood to see if you're using any of these performance enhancing steroids because they are illegal. It's not really fair for you to use those steroids and bulk up your muscles and maybe enhance your performance skills to compete and do better than other athletes who are practicing and putting their best effort into it. So we have just finished looking into 5 different categories of drugs, and oftentimes the drugs that you consume for your cold medicine or allergy medicine may not be a part of this group because we mainly looked into groups that are either legal with restrictions or illegal. Remember that whatever you consume, it's going to change how your body or your mind will function. So you have to be very careful and you have to be very mindful of the drugs that you are consuming. And you have 2 questions from this lesson. First one, how can legal drugs be harmful? You have many different ways that can be illegal or harmful to your body. And the second one is, what is the difference between physical and psychological dependence? So explain how they are different in terms of those dependents.